So Dan, tell me how you decided to start this petition to get Birmingham International Airport named for Ozzy Osbourne. Did it just like dawn on you to do it? Were you standing there at the procession and go, this is a thing that needs to happen? What made you think of this?
Well, I have had the idea for a while, actually, like for a few years. I thought, you know what, when Ozzy unfortunately dies, they should rename the airport after him. And I guess that's from doing a lot of traveling and being in America, where it feels like a lot of airports are named after people. And also in the UK, we have a couple. There's two, Liverpool John Lennon Airport, and there's Belfast George Best Airport. And I just thought, yeah, that's something they should do. They should do that. That would be nice. And then within a couple of hours of him passing, I was just chatting to some people online. We're just chatting about the gig that we'd been to a couple of weeks ago. And I was chatting to my girlfriend. I said, should I just start it? I mean, like, why not? What's the worst that can happen? And I sort of thought, literally, what are the bad things that could happen if I started this? And I couldn't really come up with anything that was too bad. So I just thought, well, let's just put it out there and see what happens, I say that, I guess I was slightly worried that it wouldn't do very well and it would just look silly, and therefore like I would look silly and it would just look like we didn't care about Ozzy Osbourne, and it was just, so I was a bit worried, but not enough to not do it. And I put it up on change.org at like, I think 9-10 o'clock on the night that he died, UK time. And then I woke up and it sort of like festered a bit. A few people had signed it. And then I got on a 15-minute train ride, and it went from 50 to 100. And at that point, I just knew instinctively that this was going to fly, pun intended. And yeah, it just went haywire after that. Absolutely crazy.
I think it's almost a no-brainer in a lot of ways. I mean, and Birmingham has pretty much embraced Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne as the children of the city, right? I mean, that's pretty much a thing that they leaned into in a lot of ways. It seems like it just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because we never did. Like,
really?
That's a very, very recent thing. Yeah, we've just like not even mentioned it in the past. It's crazy. And it's crazy, if you think of other comparable cities around the world where,
I mean, I'm in Austin and we have a statue of Stevie Ray Vaughan on Lady Bird Lake. So I mean, like, we lean into those musicians that are at our core, right? So it seems like that would be something they would do, or whether it's Phil Lynott or like the places that really embrace the musicians that have been part of their past.
I mean, I didn't even know that Stevie Ray Vaughan was from Austin until you just said that. So all that there was a statue there. So I that tells you everything you need to know, really, that you guys just get on with it and do it. Whereas in the UK, and specifically in Birmingham, it's just been a bit, I think people have been embarrassed about it. And obviously people from where I'm from are quite mild mannered, and they don't want to make a fuss. And like, so we've just never really like embraced our heritage before in a way that's particularly obvious to me, because I'm always in America and always traveling. So I'm looking at this going, well, why don't we ever talk about this? This is crazy. And international touring bands, metal bands, would come through and they'd always mention, oh my God, it's great to be here in the home of Ozzy. But nobody else would ever say that. And like, it was just really, really weird. It's only when you go to other places and you see this stuff that you go, hang on, like, this is a huge genre that comes from this city, and we just don't talk about it. And I don't really know why that is. But yeah, in recent years, in recent months in particular, it does feel like we're finally starting to embrace that. So yeah, this campaign is the sort of logical progression of that, really. But yeah, for the longest time, we just didn't. It was weird.
I mean, maybe you think that if you don't really understand like the global impact of the people that have come from the place where you still are, right? Maybe that's what it is, where it's like you just don't understand how many lives Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath has actually touched, unless you see it from the outside. It's kind of hard to scope it. A lot of my friends were really surprised at how large the outpouring of love and everything for Ozzy passing was. And I'm like, dude, he's been not just musically, he's been, reality television and all the things like for so long. It just seems like that would be, how could they not know or, or not realize how big and how important he is?
For some reason, people haven't. I think decision makers and people with influence in the city, like unless they are a fan of Ozzy or metal or happen to love the Osbournes or whatever. I think this stuff genuinely does go over people's heads, even though to me and you, it's the biggest thing in the world. I think if you're outside of our world, I think it just go over people's heads, and that's crazy. And it does take something like the passing of Ozzy and the reaction that it's got for people to go, oh, like this is huge. Like this is a huge thing. Which to me and you, of course it's huge, but I do think, some people just wouldn't be able to name a Sabbath song. They wouldn't know anything about Metallica, or like people are into different, in the same way that I don't know anything about football really, or all sorts of things. And people will be shocked at my sort of ignorance about things that they are, I don't drive, for example. I haven't driven for 10 years. I don't know anything about cars. And to some people, I'm sure that's hilarious. And they probably think...
But we're also talking about Ozzy Osbourne, a man who did like a Pepsi commercial. So, I mean, like, it's one of those, like, it feels like he's such a global star. Maybe until they saw the reaction to like the Back to the Beginning show, right? Where there was so much, a sellout show in like 16 minutes or something like that. So, and a huge crowd, and seeing what that reaction was. But I mean, there was also the bench and the bridge, and that stuff had been there for several years before that, correct?
Yeah, the bench has been, but the bench was kind of empty. Like you never saw anybody go there. Now it's complete. I haven't been there for 2 or 3 weeks, but now every day for a month it was crazy, and even before he died, it was crazy around there. But yeah, the bridge is. I don't think most people from Birmingham know that bridge. They do now. They do now, but I don't think they even knew it was there before. And that it took so long just to get that. It's really difficult to put into words how much we underplay this business. But yeah, I think the thing that did change everything was the Back to the Beginning gig, because people could see like with their eyes how many people, just people with black t-shirts wandering around.
Right.
And if you didn't know, you would just look out the window and go, why is there so many people with black t-shirts wandering around, and then you put 2 and 2 together and go, oh, it's this gig. So I do think that sort of changed everything. Yeah.
So what do you think it's going to take to put this over the top as far as like signatures? Do you think, is there a mark? I mean, you have like 70,000, you have 75,000 as your next mark on the change.org petition. But what do you think is going to be the mark to really make a splash to try to convince somebody to change the name of an international airport?
I don't know. Honestly, I've got no idea. I mean, it's going up every time I refresh it. Right. It continues to go up. So I don't want to get too bogged down in sort of targets. But I mean, I would think at the 100,000 point, which we will get to fairly soon, I think around that point, you've got to come up with some pretty good arguments against doing it, because you just can't argue with those kind of numbers, I think. But I don't know. I mean, I would argue that that 65,000, which 67,000 at the minute, I would argue that that's a pretty significant amount of people. There's been a bunch of other petitions for Aussie related things, and they're on about 100, a couple of thousands. But this is 67,000 going up. I would argue that that's significant enough, but I do think 100,000 is unarguable.
When I first saw you mention this in a news report, and I was like, it's a great idea. First off, I think it's a perfect sort of tribute, and then also like I saw the collection of all the items that were left behind after the procession and what they were doing with cataloging those things and what they were talking. They don't really have a plan yet on what's going to happen to those things. There's like, they were going to take the flowers and they're going to mulch them up and do things with them. But then I thought, oh my God, just connect the things. Let's put all the things together. The Ozzy Airport becomes the place where you display all these tributes and all these great artworks and all these great things that people left for the man himself, plus also artifacts from Ozzy and Black Sabbath mixed in with that as well. I was like, you can do it. There's so many things. It just makes so much sense.
And airports are big,
Right.
by nature. So there's plenty of space to do all sorts of things, They did actually, the airport have said that they are looking into ways of honoring Ozzy. And one of the things they were going to do is put some photos and whatnot up in the terminal, and that's fine. So they obviously do recognize on some level that honoring him is something that they need to do. But yeah, that's not enough really. That's just like the minimum, that's the minimum they can do. And that takes about a week to sort out. But they need to, rename the airport on top of that. And then there's a million things that we could do here in Birmingham, and all of them should have been done a long time ago. So it's a bit overwhelming, I think, for decision makers and whatnot to look at all this stuff and go, oh god, this is a nightmare. But so, for example, the first gig that they ever played, that pub is like decrepit and probably going to shut down. So there's a movement to stop that and to turn it into a heavy metal museum and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much to be done, and all of it. There's no reason why we couldn't do all of this, really.
Right.
So yeah, let's do it. Let's do it all.
So what's the best way to get to the change.org petition for people to sign this thing?
So AussieAirport.com is the website. Head there and you can sign it. The other thing that people have been doing, so when you put your signature down, it says, do you want to chip in? And you can put some money in. And what that does is, I don't have access to that or anything, but it just sort of goes back into the system, if you like. So it pays for advertising itself, and it pays for Facebook ads and Instagram ads and whatnot. And that's where a lot of the further signatures are coming from. So it's just like a nice little circle that goes round and round and round. There's like $7,500 in there in pounds, which is crazy. So yeah, if people want to sign, that's amazing. And then if they want to chip in to help it get in front of other people, that's amazing as well. But you can do all that at AussieAirport.com.
Dan, more power to you. I think this is a great idea, and look forward to flying into Ozzy Osbourne International someday.
Absolutely. Give me a shout when you're there. And thank you for having me on. And have you signed it?
I'm signed in.
All right. You're off the hook. Yeah. Thank you for having me.